3,000 years ago, a poet told you exactly what this story is. It is in the first line. The word he uses is psyche. Every translator writes it as life, and they are right. To Homer, it meant the breath that leaves a man when he dies. He comes home with nothing. No ship, no crew, a beggar in his own door killing the men at his table. The Greeks who first heard this used it to initiate men, 8 stations. This is the record of what happened at each one. By the time the Gospels use that same word, it means the soul, what a man can lose and what he can be given back. This is what happened in between. The Odyssey is 8 hidden trials of the soul. Start with the thing that should stop you. Somewhere in the middle of the story, Odysseus goes down to the land of the dead and speaks with the ghosts. In Greek writing, that journey means one thing. When a hero goes under the ground and comes back, the poem is telling you he's been initiated. Heracles goes down, Orpheus goes down, Aeneas goes down. It's a formula, and every listener knew it. So a poem that puts an ordinary man through that door is making a claim about him. Here's the second thing. The geography of this story doesn't work. The distances don't add up. The winds blow whichever way the tale needs. Ships cross in a night what should take a month. Homer isn't sailing you anywhere. He's walking you through stages in an order, and the order is the point. I'm going to take you through 8 of them. I need to be straight with you about that number because it's mine, not Homer's. He sails past more than 8, the Lotus Eaters, Aeolus, and the Bag of Winds, the Laestrygonians, the Cattle of the Sun. What I'm counting is the stations that a particular reading treats as tests of the soul, and I'll show you that reading as we go, 8 in order, and at the end of them, a man who owns nothing. He lands on an island, and there's a cave with cheeses in it, and he decides to wait for whoever lives there. What lives there is enormous, and it has one eye, and it eats 2 of his men against the floor of the cave that evening. No reason given, no malice either. It's simply larger than him and hungry. You know how he gets out? He gets the thing drunk, tells it his name is nobody, and drives a sharpened olive stake into its eye while it sleeps. Now hold the shape of that, because the shape is the teaching. The first thing in his way isn't clever, it isn't cruel, and it can't be reasoned with. It's raw size, appetite with a body around it, and he can't outfight it. Nobody outfights it. He can only take away its ability to see him. Every tradition that trains people puts this first. Evagrius out in the Egyptian desert called it Gastrimagia, the belly's madness, and he put it at the head of his list of the 8 thoughts, ahead of anger and ahead of pride. The first thing you deal with, because until it's handled, it eats everything else you try to do. And notice what it costs. The stake goes in, and the giant's father is the sea, and the sea has him for 10 years afterwards. You don't get past the first one clean. Next island, a woman at a loom. Singing, she gives his crew a good meal with something in it, touches them with a stick, and they're pigs in the sty, eating acorns. And Homer says the terrible part out loud, their minds stayed the same. That's the detail everything hangs on. They know they're inside those bodies, and they know exactly what's happened to them. Odysseus gets past her, and when he does, look at what he asks for. He doesn't ask for treasure, and he doesn't ask her to die. He asks her to turn his men back. The Cyclops was hunger from the outside, something that wanted to eat him. Circe is the same force working from the inside. She doesn't kill anybody, she lowers them. She takes men and leaves an animal with a man still awake in it. Meister Eckhart has a line about this that I think is the sharpest thing anybody ever said on the subject. The soul takes the form of whatever it loves. Love something below you long enough and you don't get punished for it. You get shaped by it. That's not a threat, it's a mechanism. And it runs whether anyone is watching or not. Which is why Trial 2 comes after Trial 1 and never before it. You have to survive the thing that eats you before you can survive the thing that changes you. Circe is the one who tells him where to go next, and where she sends him is the hinge of the whole poem. She sends him to the underworld, not to fight anything, to ask something. He digs a trench at the edge of the world, and the dead come up to it, and they come in a crowd, the unburied, the forgotten men he watched die at Troy. His own mother is standing there, and he didn't know she was dead. And there's Achilles, the best of the Greeks, the one who chose a short, blazing life over a long, quiet one, and Odysseus says something kind to him, "You're a king among the dead." Achilles tells him he'd rather be a hired hand on the poorest farm in the world, working for a man with nothing, than reign over all the dead. Sit with that. The greatest warrior in Greek literature, given one chance to speak from the far side, uses it to say the whole bargain was wrong. This is the middle of the eight, and it's the middle for a reason. Everything before it is about surviving. Everything after it is about going home. And in between, the man has to go down and stand in front of what death actually is without dying. That's the shape of every initiation anybody has ever described. You go down, you find out. You come back with something you can't unlearn. Now he's been under the ground, and the tests change character completely. The Sirens don't have teeth. They sing, and what they sing is knowledge. They offer to tell him everything that happened at Troy, everything that happens on the earth. Homer is specific about that. The bait is understanding. He has himself tied to the mast and puts wax in his men's ears, and he listens and he begs them to untie him, and they row on. Notice the method. He doesn't avoid it. He arranges in advance to be unable to obey himself. That's a man who's learned he can't be trusted with his own hands for the next hour. Then the straight and the choice with no good side. On one rock, Scylla, 6 heads, takes 6 men. Under the other, Charybdis swallows the sea and everything on it. He's told beforehand, steer close to Scylla and lose 6. Steer to be fair and lose everyone. So he does the arithmetic and doesn't tell the crew, and he takes the 6 and he says afterwards it was the worst thing he ever saw. Jacob Boehm wrote that a man is tried between 2 fires and has to pass through the one to reach the other. Trial 5 is the one where being good is not available, only the sum is available and you carry the sum yourself. Everything is gone by now. Ship, crew, all of it. He washes up on an island with one person on it, and her name means the one who hides. Calypso, from the Greek verb to cover, to conceal, to veil. The same root that gives us apocalypse, the uncovering. She isn't cruel to him. That's what makes this one different from all the others. She loves him. She keeps him in comfort. And she offers him the thing every other story in the world treats as the prize. She offers to make him immortal. No death, no aging, no more sea. And Homer says he sat on the shore and wept and looked at the water. 7 years. Now here's where 2 of the best readers of this poem disagree, and I'd rather show you the disagreement than smooth it over. Plotinus says run. He puts Odysseus up as the model of the soul escaping, and he names her. The other reading says the 7 years are the point, that concealment is a stage, that a man is hidden for a period before he's shown anything, and that the term has to be served. And I think the poem settles it quietly. He doesn't escape, he can't. He sits on that beach for 7 years, and what finally moves him is an order from outside. Hermes comes down and tells her to let him go. You don't leave the island by wanting to leave, you leave when the term is done. The 7th is the gentlest thing in the poem, and it's still a test. He lands among the Phaeacians, and they're kind. A king's daughter finds him, they feed him, they clothe him, they sit him down and listen to his whole story, and then they put him on a ship home with treasure. Nothing is asked, and he nearly stays. Homer lets you feel it. The possibility of a soft life, a new marriage, the sea behind him. The last test is a house full of men eating his food. He comes home and there's no welcome. His wife is under siege by suitors. His son's inheritance is being eaten in front of him. And Athena disguises him as a beggar, so the man walks into his own hall with nothing and is insulted at his own door and says nothing. Then he kills them all. And the reading that runs under this whole poem is very hard here. Those suitors are everything that had taken up residence in the house while the master was away. Every claim, every appetite, every habit that moved in and started eating. They can't be negotiated with, they have to go. He sails out clever, he walks home wise. That's the difference, and it took 8 stations to make it. Now back to the line we started with. The word under life is psyche, and in Homer it means almost exactly that. The breath in you, the thing that leaves when you're killed and goes down to the house of the dead as a shade. Achilles is a psyche when Odysseus meets him, and Achilles is barely anything. A voice with a memory. 800 years later, Matthew writes down a sentence of Christ's that uses the same word, completely different thing. It's no longer the breath that escapes you when you die. It's the thing that can be lost while you're still walking around, and the thing that can be given back. Something happened to that word in between. And what happened is the subject of every mystery school, every desert cell, and every one of these 8 stations, the slow discovery that a man has something in him that can be ruined and trained and saved. The Greeks put that discovery in a poem and made men go through it in the dark, one station at a time in a temple, with nobody watching. And then, in the reading this channel keeps returning to, it stopped being a rite. It happened once, outdoors, in daylight, in front of witnesses, a death and a return that nobody had to be initiated to see. That's the difference between Odysseus and Christ, and it isn't. That one is a story and one is history. It's that one man went down and came back with something he couldn't explain to anybody, and the other went down and came back, and the door was left open. 8 trials to make one man wise. 1 to make the way home common property,